Hello everybody, welcome back to Fresh Outlook. I'm Logan Crawford. Did you know that World Fair Trade Day is today, May 9th? It is an initiative of the World Fair Trade Organization that takes place the second Saturday of May each year. The event is described as, quote, an inclusive worldwide festival celebrating fair trade as a tangible contribution to the fight against poverty and exploitation, climate change, economic crises, and other bad things around the world that have a terrible impact on the poorest people. I am joined now by the Fresh Outlook think tank. Joining us live via our live connection in DC is Hans Thayer, Fair Trade Director of the Business Development. Also, I am joined by Ron Cortez, a coffee roaster who brings more than fairness to his industry. Dr. Bart Rossi, an all-around super genius, a nice guy and political psychologist as well. And Karen Boroff. Thank you. A professor at the Seton Hall University. And also joining us is Kate McMahon, Executive Director of 10,000 Villages. And we'll get to her in just a bit. I'm going to start with you, Hans, in DC. What is fair trade? Every time I go into a hippie coffee shop, I see fair trade coffee, and I just assume that the people who grow the coffee are treated better, right?
Yes, fair trade is a development model. It's a development model that works with small artisans, with farmers, and with small miners. We help them reach high standards of environmental stewardship, high standards of quality, and they're certified that they produce under fair trade conditions. Then we help companies in different countries, in 24 countries at present, and especially us in the US, to get acquainted with them, to connect with them and buy under fair trade conditions, meaning that they pay them a minimum price that helps a better livelihood and a premium. And the coolest thing for me about fair trade is that the farmers we work for, we work with, and we help them connect, and through their sales they live better.
Okay, Hans, thanks for that explanation. Karen, you are a professor at Seton Hall University. Does this do anything more than just make my coffee $3 a cup?
I do believe that fair trade can infuse some capital in some of these economies. However, people are also making decisions perhaps to grow something they ought not to because of that premium, and it may misdirect decisions that should be made on what best to produce, what best to grow.
So you might have too many people producing coffee when that's not going to feed people around the globe.
And may hurt other, absolutely right.
Right, because if you looked at Main Street America, there's two things that keep people in business: alcohol and coffee. If you're not selling that, you're going broke, right?
Coffee's probably tripping that a little bit. Yeah.
True. Okay, Dr. Rossi, what do you take of this fair trade initiative?
Well, the word standard was mentioned, and I'm concerned as a psychologist about the standard. Does it really raise the standards? And what does this all mean? Are we competing for a better product? And as a psychologist, I like results. So what kind of result comes out of this fair trade? And I think the jury is still out as to what this all means. It's kind of like a little bit of a fog to me in terms of where we're going with this and what's going to happen in the long run with this type of policy.
Those are good questions, and let's present them to our expert, Ron Cortez, who is joining us via Skype. Ron, does fair trade help? Does it help the product? Does it help the countries where the crop is grown? Does it help the farmers and the laborers themselves?
Absolutely. Fair trade is a beautiful idea. It's about people that grow coffee selling directly to the people, then process the coffee and give it to our community.
What else is grown via fair trade practices besides coffee? Coffee is the only thing I ever hear about.
No, there's cocoa, there's fruits, there's lettuce grown in Yuma that is being sold directly to farmers market right now. They're fair trade, they're direct trade.
Now, let's turn to Karen. Is this a little bit of an elitist concept? I mean, I don't shop at Whole Foods. I don't have that kind of money. I go to the A&P and I get whatever's on sale. I mean, a lot of people feel like me. I'd rather pay $1.99 for a jug of coffee than $12.99.
Most of us make decisions to purchase for convenience. So yes, there'll be some people that'll be getting their bananas here instead of Whole Foods. Others, though, will say if I have a little extra, okay, maybe I can put some more wealth in the system and purchase higher, and purchase something that's more expensive. But we need to know that if I'm growing coffee, some of that goes to fair trade. That same coffee may go to the general market. I'm not fertilizing one differently or the other. It's the same commodity that's going into the marketplace. So the benefits of one versus the other, I think, is somewhat hard to see for the consumer in terms of taste or quality.
Hans Thayer, you've been listening to our conversation as we go along here. Does it really improve taste? Does it really improve quality? Is it worth the investment? Or is this some kind of economic welfare that we're handing out money around the world, paying more than we have to in order to subsidize someone else's standard of living?
Quality, and you can tell by the quality, you can tell about the good quality that the partners who work with fair trade in the US request. If you go to large supermarkets like Costco or Sam's Club, you will see quite a their private labels carrying the fair trade label, the fair trade mark. Starbucks, Ben & Jerry's, some of our cocoa, some of our chocolate partners, they do aim at very high quality, and they do they do pursue fair trade as part of their business practice. So quality is the first thing. No one will buy something because it's bad. No one will buy a bad quality product like sugar, coffee, cocoa just because it's trying to help.
Doctor, do you think these fair trade initiatives help raise the psyche of the American people and the global community of issues around the world with unfair labor practices and so forth, and that this is actually a positive sign when we're trying to build our winning personality and help others?
I think this might be a positive sign. I think it might be a great idea. I mean, the word idea was thrown out before, but I'm not sure about the result yet. But I kind of like the way this is going, the road that it's going down. I mean, making us more aware, you know, more environmentally aware of what's going on. I think that's all positive. Good idea. Not sure yet where we're going with this, but I do think it's a positive.
Karen, is this linked in any way to raising the standard of living for most workers? I know minimum wage is of interest to you.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Okay, is raising the minimum wage a good idea?
Well, a job is paid for what it can trade in the marketplace. If you're going to raise...
So you make what you earn?
Well, what skills you bring.
Yeah.
And if you're raising a person's minimum wage and not doing a thing for their inherent human capital, their skills, you're really not giving them something sustainable for the future. So really paying me more without improving my education or skills or tech skills doesn't take me to the next step. I would say that's not sustainable.
Right. And companies like Starbucks are trying to do that. They're offering college educations online to certain people, and that's a good initiative.
And that gives you something that you can move, you can be mobile.
But we've all worked for minimum wage or less off the books during our youth. Yeah, I remember working 14 hours a day in a deli for $50 and I was happy to get it.
Babysitting.
But we did learn skills. We learned about productivity, we learned about initiative, we learned about mopping the floor.
Yes.
We learned different things that help us during the course of our lives. I never expected to retire while working at that deli. I never was at the boss to give me more money because I knew the deli would lead to a bank, would lead to a department store, would lead to college, would lead to...
It is not supposed to be the terminal job in your career. A minimum wage job has always been viewed as your entry in, and the employer is willing to take a very inexperienced employee and give him or her skills, and that's the trade-off for the wage that may be considered less. But I'm giving you something, I'm taking a risk, you're learning how to deal with people, you're learning skills, be on time, how to dress, how to communicate. I'm willing as an employer to subsidize and give you that training so you can move on, so you can be mobile.
Okay, let's turn to Ron Cortez right now. Ron, tell me a little bit about your organization and what it does.
Maybe this would put in perspective some of the questions asked by the panelists. More Than Fair is a coalition between growers and roasters. We deal directly with them. We pay what their product is worth, not a commodity at all. We buy coffee. We are not thinking about the coffee being discounted or up in price based on an idea. We do it by flavor. We're not very driven by hippies, but more by a sophisticated group of consumers that are demanding a higher quality product.
Sounds good, and I wasn't meaning to make fun of the process by calling it hippie coffee shops. It's just, that's where I go and I find the fair trade coffee. Let's go to Kate McMahon, Executive Director of 10,000 Villages. I thought it only took one village, Kate, but it takes many. Tell us a little bit about your organization and your work with the fair trade.
10,000 Villages is a nonprofit fair trade organization that works directly with artisans in developing countries. We buy their product. We work on product development with them and design collaboration. We pay them a fair wage up front before the product is ever shipped to the United States. They're paid entirely up front a fair wage. And we sell it here in the United States, and therefore creating a market for them for their handcrafted work where they may not have it otherwise in their own countries.
Now, Karen Boroff would say that you're actually manipulating a market, and that's not really fair. These people are earning what they're worth, and we're inflating the cost of coffee for all of us abroad. And I'll let you defend yourself in a second, Karen. But Kate, let me get your take on that. Are we trying to prop up a market unfairly and trying to manipulate a market?
I don't think so, no. I think what we're doing is creating a market where they may not have it otherwise. And a lot of times it's handcrafted product, unique, that can't be found here in the United States. And oftentimes larger, more mass-produced things push the smaller producers down. So we're giving an opportunity for those smaller producers to earn a living for themselves, earn dignity, be able to send their kids to school.
All right, that's a great answer. I'm glad I asked her a tough question. I knew Kate was smart just from looking at her. Karen, what's your take on that?
If they're those products, people will find them. They will be willing to trade their dollars for a product.
Right.
So yes, if it's wonderful, they will. If not, there might be some propping up of a product that not ordinarily would have been wanted.
And let's face it, we're going to go into these chic, hipster, hippie, cool, whatever you want to call them, coffee shops anyway, and spend $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8 for a cup of coffee. Why not spread that wealth around, as Barack Obama says?
Well, occasionally we're going to treat ourselves to a cup of coffee or a very fancy dinner. We're not making a steady fare of that.
Right.
So yeah, I'll make a decision to splurge.
Okay, you trade up from the Maxwell House to the
occasionally,
not
once in a while.
Okay, Bart, what's your take on what's been said so far?
So far, I think the psychology and the practicality of this is really good. I think it really is going in the right direction, and I like to hear what's being said about this. I think it makes sense. I think we need more of it, though, and more results.
All right, let's turn to Ron Cortez for a final thought. Ron, we ask tough questions here because we want intelligent responses like you've provided us with, and we appreciate it. But what's the takeaway for our audience here? What do they need to know about fair trade and why the celebration of today, Fair Trade Day, is important?
Fair trade is necessary for everybody's happiness. I mean, treating someone fair usually is going to yield a positive response. Knowing where your product is grown, knowing what type of efforts took for that coffee to get to market, and how this idea is gonna benefit you in the future is just a great concept. I'd like to buy things direct as much as I can, not because of a discount, but because I want to know where things are coming from.
Okay, let's turn to Kate McMahon. Kate, do you feel like we have more of an assurance as a consumer that we're getting high quality coffee that is perhaps more pesticide free if we're buying fair trade products?
I believe so. However, 10,000 Villages mainly works in handcrafted items, so we're looking at home decor, personal accessories, and I do feel that by buying direct from the artisan, you're getting a higher quality. You know where it's coming from. You have a backstory behind the organization or the group that made it. We can often print a story that talks about the person who actually handcrafted, a piece of jewelry or a wall hanging or a tablecloth. So I think it gives it a more special meaning.
All right, that's a nice thought. Thank you, Kate, for your time. I'm the kind of guy that goes to the Christmas tree shop and buys a $1.99 picture because I can't afford the artisan-made one,
Yes.
but it is a nice thing to do if you've got the money.
Well, yes, if you do, you want to make something special, unique, or different that you believe is high quality, that doesn't look inferior. I'm going to use the word cheesy.
Right. Are you saying my decorating's cheesy?
No, you might well be.
Look at this studio. I've done a nice job. Doctor, what's your final thought on fair trade?
my final thought that this is a good thing. I think we need more results. I wonder where we're going to be next year when we talk about this. Is there going to be more to talk about, more substance here that we can identify?
All right. I think it's a great way to open up the conversation
Yes.
and the dialogue and look at what people are doing to support our lifestyles here in the West, which it can be quite extravagant.
Yes.
When we come back, it is time to look at everything from the Slate Gate to celebrating our mommies. Mother's Day weekend celebrations when we come back.